family. Dustin here with a brand new season 3 of the Family by Heart podcast. And, today we are going to talk about priorities. And a priority for me this year with the podcast, with season 3, was making it better. I wanted to make sure that some of these episodes, other than the interviews, I wasn't just talking at you guys. I wanted there to be conversation. I wanted there to be more viewpoints than just mine. And so I decided, you know what, for season 3, I'm going to reach out to some people, put it out there, see who's interested, and see if I can get a co-host for the season or multiple co-hosts, maybe a panel, recurring guests. And I was beyond delighted that someone that I know from way back, I'm talking middle school years, and that was a long, long time ago. And he knows because he just had another birthday a couple weeks ago. But one of my good friends, Brandon Stafford, he has his own podcast. He just launched season 2 of the Rise and Grind podcast. And he definitely gets into helping people in his own way. He's also a dad of 2 kids that are definitely older than mine. And so it's going to be fun to get his viewpoint on things as well. And he's just one of the multiple people I look forward to having on this season. But I'm very glad that he's here for the launch of priorities, because what he does also helps people set their priorities as they plan for their future. So without further ado, Brandon Stafford, welcome. So good to have you on, man. I'm excited for the season, having you be a part of it. What's going on today, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be on. I'm glad that we were able to link up and catch up. And, it seems like, we haven't missed a beat. And the birthday, I appreciate the birthday wishes. They just keep happening at this point, and it's like, you get past all the good milestones, right? You turn 16, you can drive, you turn 18, you're 21, but then you hit 30 and then you hit 40 and, here we go.
Yeah, those milestones. But you know what? I'd rather the birthdays keep happening than them not happening anymore.
Good
It's
point. Very
unfortunately
good point.
we've seen far too often in our Facebook groups and stuff like that, like some friends that we knew that are unfortunately no longer with us, and then that's always heartbreaking to see, especially at such a young age. But you always, you look like you're doing well. You're always playing sports and everything growing up, and probably I imagine that's still the case with the activities you get into, and especially having a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old. I'm sure they're keeping you active and keeping you busy.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, right? Staying busy is good, right? You not only for your own mental health, but like you got to set a good example for your kids. They should see, that you're staying busy, you're staying active, being healthy. But yeah, sports are a big part of our life, or a big part of our schedule. And anything that kind of goes along with them, they're great for the kids socializing and staying active, and it's great. And as they get older, like you were talking about before, my kids are older than yours, and just seeing where that has taken them and everything has been great. And as you touched on in the beginning, it makes you look at and reassess your priorities often.
Absolutely. Yeah, my kids again are 4 and 3, turning 5 and 4 this year, and my favorite thing to say is that they keep me young, but they give me my gray hairs. So that's just kind of how I feel about them. So I imagine you're probably in the same boat. So
Yeah, I used to go get my hair cut like every 3 to 4 weeks. But now with the amount of grays that are coming in, I got to get the sides trimmed up like every 2 weeks. So yeah, it's a blessing, and it's they give us gray hair, that's for sure.
see, I thought maybe you were gonna take it the other way, or say like, well, as I'm getting older, I don't have to get my hair cut as much, but keeping the gray hairs out, I get it. So
I
a
feel like it's
little
at least letting me like tread water with that battle right now. And as soon as I kind of hold on to, if I'm done holding on to, and if I start losing that battle significantly, then I'll stop and I'll just let it go. And since I have orange hair, it will, instead of turn gray, it'll turn white. So I'll just let it go white, and I'll look like Santa Claus, right? I'll start putting on a
there you
gray
go.
suit and
You gotta
going to
grow
the
that
mall.
gotta grow that beard out too. Then you gotta grow the
I should
beard.
probably start now. It'll take a while to get that length.
This I shaved for No Shave November, or for Movember, and it took until now to get this long again. I'm like, man, like I swear my beard would grow faster a while back, but it's where it is now. So the
It's
fun
where it
part
is.
was my kids never saw me without a beard at all, without any facial hair. So when I did it, because the last time I did Movember, growing just the mustache like from scratch, was like right before we became foster parents, and so one of them took it well, the other one did not. It took them about 45 minutes to kind of stop crying, or at least whimpering, and then sit close enough to me before he like felt my like would take my arm and stuff. And then by the next day he was fine. But I think he gets nervous anytime I pull the clippers out. He thinks that I'm gonna go full shave again. And then
Yeah,
there's my
like
wife. She's like, that's after I do cleanly shaven, she's like, that's too much face coming at me. That's too much. I'm like,
yeah,
all right,
I
I'll
get it.
keep the beard then. So yes.
You are a bearded man. Keep it going.
Exactly. So as I said at the beginning, we're going to talk kind of about priorities today. And one of the things that's going to lead us into priorities is it's March. And it's around this time of year, according to recent studies, only about 53% of people have already given up on their New Year's resolution by March. Okay, so 47% are still going strong. And then really once you get to the end of the year, only about 1% people have crushed their New Year's resolutions. And then from that, 6% of people will keep their New Year's resolution continuing on past that new year. So that's pretty big. What do you think about those numbers? Are you someone that sets a New Year's resolution? Did you have one this year? And
So
how's it going so far in March?
I did not set a New Year's resolution. And I'll be very honest with you. It's kind of because of all of the stats that you just said. I
Okay.
used to be, feel like you're almost obligated to do a New Year's resolution, right? I felt that way. So I would do a New Year's resolution, and it would be something like kind of way out of the norm. And I would be able to maintain it for a month, but then it would kind of fall off, and the next year I would make the same resolution and I would do it for January again. And at that point, it seemed like I was just doing it just to do it. So I did not do one this year.
Right. Well, I did not do one this year either. However, I am proud to say I'm part of that 6% that has kept a New Year's resolution going. And this one is from 3 years ago. It was I gave up alcohol. And so I'm 3 years alcohol free. And it's not that I was really a heavy drinker by any means when I made that New Year's resolution, but we were staring down the face of the permanent custody trial for our boys,
Mm-hmm.
permanent custody being removed from their parents. At that point, we would know what the next steps were, if we're going to be able to adopt them, and whatnot. And I didn't knowing that there was going to be the stress of the court, and then knowing that there would be typically about 30 days or so, maybe more, before we would get the decision on that from the judge. And then from their parents, the birth parents would have a 30-day window to file an appeal. So now that's another month of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they were to appeal, which we felt was likely going to happen and did, the appeal process takes 6 to 8 months usually. So we had a lot of, and
Mm-hmm.
again, while I wasn't really a drinker, I want alcohol to become a crutch for me by any means.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of it, I was working in a gym, and I knew that the gym I was working at, this is like coming out of COVID, the first year of COVID, I kind of had a feeling that that gym was not going to make it through to the next year. And which meant if I'm not going to be working in a gym, and we were focusing more on foster parenting, my wife was doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to the parenting, because
Mm-hmm.
as a personal trainer, most of your time working is either in the morning or in the evening, before other people's work or after other people's work, because that's when
Right.
they could come in to train. And so I knew I was not going to be in a gym any longer, and which meant I was going to have as easy access to sneak in a workout here and there. So it just made sense to me to give up alcohol. Um, and it was kind of tough the first year. I mean, partly when we would get together with our family for like Sunday fun day, family fun days stuff, and my brother would bring over to my parents' house some of the good craft beers that I remember drinking, like, oh, that one is my favorite from Great Lakes Brewing, or oh, that one sounds really good, it's really interesting. And it's like, man, I can't believe I'm missing that. I can't believe I forgot about that. Thankfully, over the last couple of years, there's been some really good, like, non-alcoholic craft breweries that have come around.
Mhm.
But I've been able to stick with that. Again, go 3 years now without alcohol. And I remember approaching year two where some people were asking me, like, are you going to start drinking again? I had one friend that was, she was pregnant at like right around New Year's, where she was going to be having a baby shortly after New Year's. And she's like, we can have, we can have our first drinks together and stuff, like after I have the baby and stuff. Like, oh, that'd be fun. Like, cool. Like, of course, with our significant others, with our spouses, and just relaxing. But then for whatever reason, I decided, no, I'm gonna stick with it. And now again, here I am, year three. So when do you think was your last successful go or semi-successful go at like a New Year's resolution?
Um, so I would say it was probably mid 2010s. It was a workout. I think that's probably the largest New Year's resolution would be working out or eating something with your health, right? And
Right,
mine was that I would work out X amount of days or hours per week or whatever. And I was one of the um, people that go all of a sudden they're at the gym and they weren't there for the previous 12 months, right? And everybody that had been at the gym for the previous 12 months, all of a sudden they see all these new faces and they know, like the statistics that you talked about earlier, that these people that are just joining the gym in January, they're doing it as part of their resolutions. They'll be there for a month or so and then they'll be out. Um, but it was just something that I continued to enjoy. I had done it a lot, like in the late 2000s when I was, in my early 20s and everything like that, in mid 20s. And then once I hit like my 30s, I kind of stopped. And then at some point, um, I was like, okay, I need to get back in there. I need to make this a consistent habit for me. And what a better time to do it than New Year's resolution. And I did that and I stuck to it and I'm still doing it. But I would say that that's the last New Year's resolution that I did and I stuck to. I'm sure I've had a couple after that, but they were
right,
so short lived that
right,
that they kind of fell by the wayside, and I don't even remember what they were at that point.
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, so the question then becomes like, how was I able to get through 3 years of and still going strong with it? And how was your last New Year's resolution that was successful? Why did it work for you then? And so my explanation, obviously, that I just gave, it was, because of not going to be in the gym, not going to be, um, or I was facing strenuous times. And then for you, it was kind of more aligned with who you were at the time, and that you had always stayed active before, and it felt like it was something that you needed to be part of your life again.
Mhm.
So that being said, that was clear to show that it was a priority for both of us. So my family was my priority for me, and your health, and probably you didn't mention it, but your family was starting at that point, and so that was a priority for you, making sure you were being the best dad that you could be for your kids, and you were taking care of them and being a good example for them. So again, that's to say that it was our priorities. And
Mhm.
when people often fail, that 47% fail at their New Year's resolutions, it could be for numerous reasons. It could be maybe their goal was too lofty. Maybe it was wasn't in line with who they were, or maybe it was not specific enough, or maybe it was too specific. So a number of reasons, but it needed to be a priority for them. And sometimes people set it because it sounds like a good idea. Oh, everyone thinks like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to do this. But if it's not in line with who you are at the time or who you're trying to be, and you really don't plan it out, then it's probably you're going to be one of those 47% that fall off in the early stages and one of those 99% that don't accomplish the New Year's resolution at all.
Right. Right.
So when we look at priorities, in simple terms, a priority is something of leading importance in your life, a value, a goal, a relationship, job, cause, etc. It's what you live for, and it's what gives you focus for your life. And for my priorities, again, looking back at my family, like, and what was going on for me, like my priorities of being there for them and being a good example for the kids and being of sound mind were more important to me than just chilling out on a different level, or just the need to throw one back and one turning into two into three and stuff, and needing to decompress.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to be a shell of who I normally am with the kids, which is probably why I've stuck with it. And I didn't want my kids to come from a broken home to then have a dad that was, not willing to get down and play with them, was too busy doing other things, or unable to get down, because if I wasn't taking care of my health and I was drinking too much, I'm not going to be able to get down on the floor and play with my kids.
Nope.
So that's where I think my priorities have been able to keep up with the staying alcohol free and being back at the gym. It helps the fact that I'm back to personal training again, even if it's part time. I'm able to find that time. But before I was back at the YMCA, I had joined the rec center in good old Berea again. I remember hooping with you there back in the day and stuff. But setting those priorities and making sure you're taking care of your family and your kids and the things that are really important to you, that those are kind of your priorities, and why they have continued to be. And another fancy way of saying that my family and kids and my health were my priority, they're also my why. It's like a even deeper way to say that they're a priority. They're your why. So for you
Mm-hmm.
and what's going on in your life right now, like what's your why going on in your life? What's your priorities with work, with your family, with your kids? What would you say is your leading priority? Maybe it's a shift that you had to make recently. What's something for you that's your current priority?
So I would say that this priority kind of kicked off back around COVID, and I think a lot of people kind of re-looked at things during 2020, because not only were they everyone's kind of isolated, but like you had time to do that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you were at home a lot, and a lot of things that you went and did before were cut out, so you had some extra time on your hand to not only reflect but to look at that time and say, okay, what am I going to do now? I have an extra x amount of hours every single day that I need to fill. Now how am I going to do that? And what the my priority shift, and I would say it started 2000, is I wanted to spend more time um, at home and doing family related items. So in my career, I had traveled extensively. I would travel, multiple cities in a week, and by doing that, it would leave my wife home to be the sole parent. And as my kids got older, like you don't get that time back.
Mm-hmm.
And like you right now with your young kids, you have all that time to look forward to, and there's so much that you hear as, oh my gosh, the beginning years are so difficult, and I 100% agree with that. Like I would say the first 18 months, like it's a whole different level. It's different. It's just, I don't know if it's lack of being able to communicate, verbally, because, just with speech development and everything like that. But regardless, it's a very difficult 18 months, in my opinion. But as my kids continue to get older and were in school, and then they were in middle school and then high school, you start realizing that not only do you need to make a concerted effort to free up more time to have his family time, but now your kids are observing you and they're watching what you do, and they will subconsciously put that into their life. And when they get older, they will prioritize those things because they saw when they were younger that those were prioritized in their parents' life and in their home life. So,
Mhm.
where I was gone, I would say I traveled probably 50 to 60% of the time. So I was gone a lot.
Wow.
And with COVID, all of a sudden everybody was able to, not everybody, but there were a lot of jobs that went from being in an office to being able to be in a home office. And it was temporary at that point. But then a lot of companies saw, okay, so I was paying $7,000 a month to lease this space that all of my employees to go to, or I can just have them keep working remotely. They're doing good. We have our checks and balances in place. So what we can do now is let them stay at home. And so it benefits the company because they have less expenses. And then from my point of view as a husband and as a parent, I'm able to have more time with my family every single day. You eliminate an hour to an hour and a half of commute every day, and things like that. So it made sense that I liked having that extra time and having that time at home, even though at some points during COVID it was forced, right? But sometimes
Yeah.
that's what it takes. But once I saw that and I saw how important it was and I saw the impact that it had on not only me but my family as a whole, I made a decision right then, it's probably 4 years ago, that I needed to position myself career wise, that I had more time with my family. I needed to set boundaries as far as when I was cutting off my work at a certain time in the night, the amount of work that I would do on the weekends, things like that. So it wasn't a New Year's resolution, but it was kind of a resolution, just
Absolutely.
reprioritizing what I was going to be doing on a day to day basis. And when you start looking at it from the smaller micro level of day to day and hours per day, that starts expanding into more of a macro level where, okay, now I'm getting an extra 10 hours a week at home to spend with everybody. Or I'm able
Mhm.
to go to 3 extra events per week to be able, and it just, they start adding up, and you start having a great time. The kids start getting used to you doing that. I like to do, with my wife, I like to, we set Friday nights and the weekends for family time.
Mhm.
If I want to go meet out, some of you guys from high school or whatever, it's going to be a Tuesday, it's going to be a Wednesday, it's going to be a Thursday. It's not going to be a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Yeah.
So just prioritizing it for myself, but then also involving the rest of the family, and having them on board. I think that offers a support system almost.
Mhm.
And to where, let's say my New Year's resolution was to work out or to diet. If I'm doing that with somebody else that helps to hold me accountable and helps to support me in doing that, like I wake up and, here we have, well, it doesn't seem like that much anymore, but we have nasty winters. And, if in January 1st when people start doing, workout resolutions, but you're waking up at, say 6 a.m. and it's 14 degrees, like I don't want to get in the
Right.
car, warm it up, go to the gym, run from my car inside in 14 degrees, like it's not necessarily an attainable priority or an attainable resolution. So you need to be realistic about it. And in making my shift and my priority, my family, um, was a realistic goal, and I had a support system and people that were on board with it, and it's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic last 4 years, and it's been a big shift.
Okay. There we go. Nice.
I didn't know
No,
we had a studio audience here today.
yeah. I didn't tell you
Yeah.
that. They're all watching out there.
No,
Oh
no,
man, I
no.
forgot to mention that. Didn't want to put too much pressure on you, so No, we
Feeling
we
good.
are recording from. I'm using a new software this season as well, recording, and so a little bit of today's episode is a little trial and error as well. But no, everything you said, beautifully said. I love how you really talked about your kids watching you and seeing that, and how those things carry on to what they're doing as they get older, and then having someone accountable, and having that time with your family is helping hold you guys all accountable.
Hmm.
So awesome job with one describing that, and then just making that recognition yourself as a dad, as a man, as a husband. I mean, that's not easy to do. Sometimes you need to have those hard conversations with your spouse, or they need to have them with you for you to really go like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And um, and your story leads very well into mine, and a priority I had to adjust to start this year, and I'm gonna apologize ahead of time if I get a little emotional about it, but again, Dracy, our oldest, was diagnosed autistic July of last year. And we were kind of like, huh, we thought maybe like ADHD, but like not autistic. Like that kind of seemed a little far fetched to us. Knew like some sort of special needs, special attention needed, but it really was not registering with us. Then the start of this year, didn't start very well. And um, I was having a hard time seeing the special needs, seeing the autism. I was seeing a toddler, a 4-year-old that was not listening, that was being defiant, that was having tantrums. I wasn't seeing my own son. And so was having a bit of a temper issue when it came to that. And I'd always thought like, well, no, I don't yell at the kids. I give them the little bit of the dad voice, the quick, hey, what are you doing?
Yep.
Stop. And thinking they would stop. And then there was times my wife would have to point out like, no, like you are yelling, like, and the kids are getting scared. I'm getting scared. Like, and we know you would not do anything to hurt us. But the fact is, do you want your kids to be scared of you? Do you want me to be scared of you? Do you want like, and even when I would get so angry that I would walk away from the situation, the other part of it was whatever wake I left from my burst of anger, my wife was left to deal with as I went on a walk to calm down, or went on a drive to calm down. Plus, she was worried about me while I was going for that drive to calm down. How angry is he? What's he gonna do? Is he gonna do something stupid? Like, be smart, be okay. I love you. But I was leaving a lot of that to her, so she had to have a difficult conversation with me to start the year. And I'm being transparent here because I want anyone listening or watching to know that just because I have a podcast about families, about fatherhood, it doesn't make me a perfect father by any means. There's no such thing as a perfect dad. You and I had a conversation the other day about this is all trial and error. We're kind of working it as we go.
Yep.
And so she had to have that difficult conversation with me, and she even asked me like, I need you to not post on social media. I need you to not do the podcast. I need you to focus on your physical health, your mental health. I need you to be there with the boys, and recognize that they're watching you. They're seeing the things you're doing. And within like the time of her having a conversation with me, I could hear Dracy immediately going to the dad voice, or the shouting at Draco when he would do something that would upset him. And it made me go, huh, okay, he's picking it up. He's picking up
Yep.
what I'm doing. And that was really difficult to have that conversation with my wife, see that in my own kids, and deal with it. So that's kind of why a priority. I put my family as a priority this year. Yes, I said early at the beginning of this episode I wanted a priority is for this podcast and for everything to be better. But here we are, middle of March, and this is the first episode because my family and myself, my mental health, my physical health, the kind of father figure I want to be for my boys. Like, I want to be a good version of that for them. I want to be a better example. So I've done some therapy. Have another session this week. I've been reading some really incredible books about autism that have not only shed some light on really what's going on with Tracy, but also have helped give me strength in my patience and overall belief, but also realizing how much more I'm going to have to do to go to bat for him, to really fight for things that he needs, the right kind of therapies, the right kind of interventions, the right kind of uh, comforting and understanding that he needs. And so it's been a tough like 2.5 months, but it's also been so rewarding to see the kids respond to me the way that they are, and being able to get down and play and see the light on their faces. And even in the midst of all that going on with me, like, um, there's some other issues that Tracy deals with as a part of his autism, something called oppositional defiant disorder, where he has gotten a little physical with my wife, with Leanne, and that was like in the middle of all that. And since I've really been reading and taking the time to be there and talk to him and change my approach with them, we've gone like over a month without him really being physically aggressive with my wife. And it's just, and not that he learned physical aggression towards my wife from me, because I've never been physically aggressive. And I'm saying like me working with him on controlling his anger and being able to calm him down, stuff has, and talk to him about how we process our emotions and recognizing our red flags when we're starting to get upset and stuff has been really taking us to a different part. So it's that's why we're here in March, and that's why I'm excited to have another wonderful dad on the podcast with me, and more dads I look forward to talking to, and like I said, reading some books, and I look forward to having some authors on to join us, hopefully, and different people sharing their stories. But I want to be transparent again with my listeners and watchers, and really anyone, that there's no such thing as a perfect dad. I'm sure you can.
I think you brought up a few good points in that. So first thing, you and Leanne called you out, and it was a difficult conversation for her to start, I'm sure, because you don't know where that's going to go. But she called you out with, that you need to take care of yourself. You need to get yourself in a good spot in order to get everybody else in a good spot. And it's true, and then you also touched on therapy. And I think therapy is a very underutilized tool that is available to everybody. I don't know if it's necessarily because it has a negative connotation where people think that people that go to therapy, it's only for bad things. But I also consistently go to therapy. And, when someone starts going to therapy, you really should talk to a few different therapists first to see which one you kind of work well with. But being able to talk to somebody openly that doesn't necessarily have any skin in the game as far as what the conversation is or what the topic is allows you to get, non-biased feedback, which is what you want to hear. Because sometimes if you're in a conversation with your wife, your kid, or parent, or whatever it might be, you think, okay, this person has an agenda that they may be trying to add to the conversation. They're not just talking to me about mine. So I think that therapy is a tremendous tool that is underutilized. And then the last thing I thought you brought up that was fantastic is that you said Tracy was doing things that you were doing. And I think that as parents, sometimes we think that the kids learn more from what we tell them or what we say to them as opposed to what we do. And I think it's completely vice versa. I think that the kids learn how to act from the ways that what they see from their parents. Um, and I think that you have to change what you're doing, not what you're saying, and that's
Mm,
going to lead the example. Um, because you could sit here and I'll just use your situation or your resolution or whatever. Like if you could sit here and if you kept drinking, you keep drinking, and you like you said, you have 3 and you're feeling good, and then you go 4, then you go 5, and then that's when it goes from hanging out to something else. And then you could sit there and tell your kid, drinking is bad. Okay, well, Dad,
right.
what are all these empty cans? Again, I
Yeah.
just think I think that people need to realize it's more of what you do, how you act, what your children witness and what they see, as opposed to what they hear and what they listen to, as far as what they're going to retain. And what ends up getting into their moral compass is more of what they see.
Absolutely, dude. Here, I gotta hit it again here. There we go. Yeah, it's even louder. That was even better soapbox moment. No, dude, I'm already in love with having someone else here on the podcast. This is fantastic. But no, I really appreciate your feedback on that and the things you point out. And really, that was a great point about it's not what you say, it's what they see, and that hits home differently right now as well. Yeah, that's a big one. And to back up what you said about therapy, um, yeah, that's something I've been pushing for people in some of my speaking engagements that I've done over the last few years and everything. It's a huge thing I'm a big proponent of because my wife and I, when we went through our infertility, we saw a grief counselor. And then through the years through COVID and everything, like we've done some therapy on and off on our own and stuff. And it's therapy is like maintenance for your body, for your soul, for your emotions. Like you take care of your car with oil changes and tire rotations and new tires and so why don't you take care of your body that same way? So therapy should not just be when something is chaotic. Like if you go to therapy only when something is completely wrong, then it's like getting a brand new car when you have a flat tire or the low light comes on, or even low gas light comes on. Like, oh, I need a new car. Like, let's go buy that. Like, it'd be nice to have that kind of money, but at the same time, like, that's not the point of it. So, uh, for anyone that works for any kind of organization, corporation, talk to your HR office about what's called an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. And normally, most HR offices have an EAP where you can get free counseling sessions. It's usually like anywhere from 6 to 8 free sessions for a year. And then you can get it when the calendar resets, you can get a new 6 to 8. And they set you up with a total anonymous network, a number where you call. The information that you share with your counselor and the number you call into is never shared with your employer. It's all about it's that discrepancy. It's that confidentiality and stuff that it needs to be kept. So definitely check for EAP with your company, as well as check your insurance. I mean, most insurances will have some mental health coverage benefits on there as well. So one more thing to get into as we're wrapping up with priorities is as we're talking about, maybe it's a little too late for New Year's resolution, but it's never too late to recalibrate and set a new priority. Okay. So I want you to consider these 3 questions when it comes to your priorities. 1, what do I constantly think about? You can replace think about with worry. What do I constantly think or worry about? 2, how do I spend my money? Are you spending on frivolous things? Are you spending on just things that you don't need? Or are you spending on things that you need or would benefit your quality of life? And 3, how do I spend my time? So again, that's what do I constantly think about or worry about? How do I spend my money? And how do I spend my time? When you can honestly answer these three questions, you have found your priority. Now the question is it that priority what you want it to be? If not, I think you found a good place to start on what you need to do, how to recalibrate. And it might be something that you need to do. Any thoughts on that definition of priority or how we come up with a priority, Brandon?
Listening to you go through each one of those things, I was kind of doing that in my head. And then, kind of how you wrapped it together, that's when you ask yourself those three questions, that's when you find your priority. You're 100% right. You're 100%
Yeah,
right. I could sit here and say that my priority is X, but then when I ask myself those three questions and I have my answers and they don't match up, then I'm, telling myself a lie that this is my priority when my actions are saying something completely different. So I think that if anybody goes through those three questions as you just said, that they will see their priority, and if it's not what they want it to be, then they know what they need to change to start shifting their priorities.
absolutely. Now, if you're someone that had a New Year's resolution and it didn't quite work out, or you maybe are, as you're thinking about your priorities and you want to set some new goals for yourself, one thing I do want to point you to is on my website, familybyheart.me. You can do familybyheart.me/workbooks. And I have a ebook / workbook that I created. It was actually an online program that you could do a couple of years ago. I created it during COVID, but it's called Goals to Greatness, and I turned it into a workbook ebook combo that you can easily print or just keep it on your computer or tablet or phone as a PDF and fill it out and everything from there. But it combines some of the program that's from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. A lot of it's based on that idea. And then also your traditional SMART goals. I take it and create my own version of SMART goals. And it's a wonderful way to take you through how to really reset your priority and accomplish a new goal. There's Brandon and his talking about his priorities with his family before, talked about accountability. And there's parts in there talking about having an accountability partner, how to keep yourself accountable. So it's a really great workbook, completely free. So again, just go to my webpage, familybyheart.me, to get a copy of that. Also, another thing I want to point out again is Brandon has his own podcast, second season of that going, the Rise and Grind podcast, where he gets to do little interviews with some people that he finds interesting and inspiring and informational. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my podcast, Smiling and Grinding, it's available on YouTube. I went to Baldwin Wallace and I majored in entrepreneurship, and I really find it fascinating some of the ways, some of the paths that people have taken to get to where they are right now. They're either, they could own their own business, be entrepreneurs, or they could be employees, but pushing an agenda or finding a industry that they wanted to get into. So I've done 7 episodes, 6 last season. I just kicked off this year's last week. And I just like to spotlight people that have taken a different path than you would normally see. People that are very positive, uplifting. Because I think that if people are listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, and only they think that in order to be like I had a guy turned around from the city of Berea. They think that in order to be a mayor or whatever, I need to do this and this and this. But Guy has taken a crazy path to get to where he's at, and I think that people get too fixated on these are the steps I need to do, where sometimes you just need to read the tea leaves and go with where life's taking you, and you're going to end up getting there, or to something that's going to be even a better fit for you. So I'd like to, if I can have one person that catches on to, okay, maybe I don't need to do this, I should just let it go. and kind of follow a path. I think that that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get these people's stories out there that I feel are very relatable to people. But again, the main focus on the people that are on. I like to have very positive people. I would like to have you on this season, season 2,
Hey,
and
sweet.
we could get that going. Yeah, it's great, and I think it's one way to be able to reach more people.
Awesome. And I know it's on YouTube. Do you have a YouTube channel that's easy
Yep.
for people to find, or find you on Facebook and go from there,
You can find
or
me on
search on
Facebook, and
YouTube?
I post my podcast to Facebook, but it's on YouTube / Smiling and Grind.
Smiling. I kept saying rise and grinding. Why did I do that? Like, how come you didn't correct me either,
Because
dude? Like,
that's actually the first name that I was going to do. But I felt
okay,
like when I Googled it that it was kind of all over the place, so I needed to change it a little bit more. So that's where I
okay.
landed. So I probably talked to you about it early on in the process.
Well, and I even like made your intro like graphic
You
for you,
did.
and I still was saying it wrong. Like, oh, what a dodo! All right.
I, I
Well,
feel like that
still,
intro took me to the next level. Next level. I love it.
well, it's fun software to use, and doing little things like that just been fun. I've created a few things like that for other people, but that's neither here nor there. But so there you have again your priorities. Again, what do you think about or worry about? What do you spend your money on? What do you spend your time on? Think about your priorities. Thank you for making listening or watching this podcast being a priority, and for understanding my priority, putting my family first, and why we're just now launching in March. But I'm really looking forward to the season. I'm been reaching out to a lot of different people for guests, and Brandon again is just one face of multiple dads that I plan on having on. And who knows, we'll kick it back to the ladies as well. I know there's a few moms that probably have some things to say as well, because my wife hasn't made an appearance since episodes 2 and 3 when we talked about our whole story. So we'll probably get her back on, and her talking about our experience with dealing with autism, stuff like that. But that's gonna be it for now. So again, Brandon and I go way back, friends for long, but we're part of the Berea High School family. We were once a Brave, we're always a Brave, even though they're now the Titans, Berea Mid Park Titans. But the important thing is, no matter how your family comes together, no matter if it's fertility, adoption, child free, fur babies, kinship care, whatever, it doesn't matter. Or if it's just your relationship with another human being, it doesn't matter. We're born into our names, but we're all family here. This is Family by Heart. We'll see you next time, guys.